All right, so we're back and ready to dive into some serious NBA action. We're talking to those games that had you glued to your seat, the kind of performances that make you want to rewind and watch again and again.
What's really got my attention lately is how teams are winning in such different ways. You've got squads like the Bulls and Knicks showing that playing together as a unit that can really take you places.
Let's start with that Bulls game, against the Clippers. A 112 to 99 win for Chicago, and it wasn't just about outscoring them. They put up this wall, like an actual defensive wall, especially in that last quarter.
It was impressive. The Clippers, even with Paul George getting 26 points, they couldn't find a clean shot. Those Bulls, they were everywhere, closing down those passing lanes in your face on every shot.
Yeah, I was like, come on, Clippers, pass the ball. But seriously, Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, they were unstoppable. 28 points for LaVine and DeRozan right behind him with 24.
And DeRozan had 7 assists, too. He wasn't just scoring. He was setting things up, making plays happen. That's what makes this Bulls team so tough to beat. They're not just a one-man show.
All right, so let's switch gears for a second and talk about a game where individual talent just exploded. Pelicans taking a close one against the Jazz, 123-119. It went into overtime, had us all on the edge of our seats.
Brandon Ingram, wow, 34 points. He was on fire, and it looked so smooth, so effortless. He wasn't forcing anything, just playing his game and hitting shots from everywhere.
I know, right? He made it look so easy. It's frustrating when it's the other team doing that to you. And CJ McCollum had a great game too, 27 points, 9 assists. Those two, it's like they can read each other's minds out there.
They really complement each other's styles. Ingram's got that smooth scoring touch, and McCollum can create his own shot but also set up his teammates. Makes for a really dynamic offense, hard to defend.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell even put up 31 points for the Jazz, but it wasn't enough. Man, that overtime was intense.
That's what happens when you've got two strong teams going head-to-head. You've got these amazing individual performances, but it comes down to which team can execute when it matters most. And in this case, the Pelicans, they just had that extra edge.
Okay, speaking of wanting it more, did you see the Celtics just dismantle the Warriors in Boston, 125 to 85? Now, I know the Warriors were missing some key players, but you got to give the Celtics credit. They played phenomenally.
I think that game says more about the Celtics than it does about the Warriors. Their defense was suffocating, holding a team like the Warriors to only 85 points.
Jason Tatum was on another level, 38 points, 10 rebounds. He was unstoppable.
And to put it in perspective, they held Steph Curry to just 18 points. That's less than half his average. They made him work for every basket, and that kind of defensive effort, that can win you championships. Are they ready for that kind of pressure right now? I don't know, but they're definitely sending a message.
Yeah, with defense like that, it's hard to argue with them. So let's move on to a matchup where the Cavs really caught my eye. That one-heady team 92 win against the Suns. I know the Suns were missing some guys due to injuries, but the Cavs, they look really good.
This game really showcased the Cavs' depth and balance. They were moving the ball well, everyone contributing. It wasn't just Darius Garland, although he was phenomenal with 29 points and 8 assists. Evan Mobley had a strong game too, 22 points and 12 rebounds. They're playing like a team that believes they can beat anyone. And honestly, after that performance, I'm starting to believe it too.
Right. It's like something's clicked in Cleveland.
Yeah. And it shows you what good coaching and player development can do. They're not just relying on talent. They're playing smart, disciplined basketball.
And to wrap up this whirlwind tour of NBA action, we have to talk about the Knicks. They took down the Hawks 119 to 110. And while we've been focusing a lot on individual stars, this Knicks win was all about teamwork.
Absolutely. You can see it in how they move the ball, their communication on defense. They played like a team that knows its strengths and trusts each other.
Julius Randle, he was a beast. 32 points and 11 rebounds, but then you had R.J. Barrett adding another 25 points. It felt like everyone on the Knicks was making a real contribution.
What impressed me most was their consistency throughout the game. They didn't let up. Even when the Hawks tried to make a run, they kept their cool, stuck to their game plan, and that's what got them the win.
It's interesting. We've seen some incredible individual performances in these games, but the teams that are really making a statement, they're the ones playing as a unit. It makes you wonder if we're seeing a shift in the NBA, a move away from that superstar-centric style that's been so dominant.
That's a really interesting point. Could this be the return of the team-first mentality? It'll be fascinating to watch as we get closer to the playoffs.
All right, so let's go back to some of those standout individual performances. We talked about Ingram's incredible night against the Jazz, but I want to circle back to Jason Tatum. 38 points and 10 rebounds against the Warriors. That's MVP caliber stuff.
Tatum's not just a scorer anymore. He's a complete player. His defense has come a long way, and he's become a real leader for the Celtics.
I have to admit, I was a little skeptical of Tatum early on. I thought he was all flash. But he's become this incredibly well-rounded player. He's taken the criticism and used it to get better.
And that's what separates the good from the great, right? That ability to learn, to adapt, to constantly evolve your game. Tatum's got that in spades.
And speaking of players who have elevated their game, we got to talk about Darius Garland. Leading the Cavs to that dominant win over the Suns, he's playing like an all-star this year.
His development has been impressive. He's always had talent. But now he's playing with this confidence and maturity we haven't seen before. He's controlling the offense, making everyone around him better.
It's like he's finally found his groove, playing within himself, trusting his teammates, and the results speak for themselves.
You can't underestimate the impact of a strong supporting cast. Players like Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, they take some of the pressure off Garland and let him focus on what he does best.
Okay, one more standout player I want to mention, Julius Randle. We talked about his big game against the Hawks, but I think it's worth noting how consistent he's been all season. He's been a rock for the Knicks.
Randall's a force. He's got that combination of strength, athleticism, and skill. And he never stops working. He's always attacking. He's a nightmare to defend against.
You can tell he's playing with something to prove. He wants to be recognized as one of the best power forwards in the league, and honestly, he's making a pretty convincing case.
His performance against the Hawks, it wasn't just about scoring points. It was about setting the tone, leading by example, inspiring his teammates. That kind of leadership is invaluable, especially for a team like the Knicks, who are trying to establish themselves as contenders.
So we got these amazing individual performances, and we have these teams finding success through a more team-oriented approach. Makes you wonder, what are the key ingredients that turn a group of talented players into a real championship contender?
That's the question, isn't it? Like, what's the secret sauce? You need talent, of course, but it's more than just a bunch of all-stars. It's about chemistry, about working towards the same goal, about a willingness to, put the team first.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, there's no I in team, but it's more than just a saying, right? You got to have that trust, that real camaraderie.
Exactly. You need players who can put their egos aside
Yeah.
and buy into the system. Believe in each other, believe in the coach, believe in the game plan.
And it seems like we're seeing more of that this season. Teams that maybe don't have the biggest names, they're finding success by working together. It's almost like old school basketball, you know?
It really is. And it's refreshing to see. Reminds you that basketball, at its heart, it's a team sport. And when you've got everyone on the same page pulling in the same direction, it's powerful.
It's exciting to watch. It's not just about who has the best players. It's about who plays best as a team.
And that's what makes the NBA so unpredictable. You never know which team's going to click on any given night.
Yeah.
That's why we love it, right? Keeps us on the edge of our seats.
Definitely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into some of the most exciting NBA action, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that the NBA is in a really exciting place right now.
Yeah.
We're seeing this blend of amazing individual talent and this renewed focus on teamwork, the landscape shifting, new contenders are coming up, and the future is wide open. It's going to be a wild ride.
I love it. So to all our listeners out there, buckle up because the NBA season is just heating up, and we're in for some incredible basketball. Keep your eyes on the court, and as always, thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? It's not just about having a bunch of stars. You need that chemistry, that shared goal, that willingness to sacrifice for the team.
Yeah, there's no I in team, right? But it's got to be more than just a saying. You need that real trust, that camaraderie in the locker room.
Oh, absolutely. You need players who are willing to put their egos aside and buy into the system, believe in each other, in the coach, and the game plan.
And we're seeing that more and more this season. Teams that, may not have those big superstar names, but they're finding success by working together. It's kind of like a throwback to, an older style of basketball.
It is. It's refreshing. It reminds us that basketball, it's a team sport at its core. And, when you have a group of guys all pulling in the same direction, that can be so powerful.
It's what makes it so exciting to watch. It's not just about who has the best individual players. It's about which team can really come together and play the best as a unit.
And that's what makes the NBA so unpredictable. You just never know which team is going to click on any given night. That's what keeps us coming back for more, right? Keeps us on the edge of our seats.
For sure. So as we wrap up this deep dive into some really exciting NBA action, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from all this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the NBA is in a really exciting place right now.
Hmm.
We're seeing this awesome blend of individual brilliance and this, renewed emphasis on team basketball. The balance of power is shifting, new contenders are emerging, and the future is wide open. It's going to be a wild ride.
I love it. Well said. So, to all of our listeners out there, buckle up because the NBA season is just heating up. We're in for some incredible basketball. Keep your eyes on the court. And as always, thanks for joining us on the deep dive.